So I said, I think I'm attracted to my trauma.
Wow. I'm sitting right here, my guy.
Okay.
To be fair,
right? That's true too.
Yeah.
It's actually one of the things, like if we're honest, that almost broke us up.
Okay. How so?
Because
I think we broke up like a couple times.
Yeah.
It's fine. What else?
Podcast for another day. But I think that and this is more recently, right? The problem was we both got healed.
Yeah.
And we didn't know how to interact with each other because our traumas matched, right? Mm-hmm. I like to be needed.
Yeah.
You were needy.
Yeah.
And so the traumas worked.
Yeah.
And so like they fit.
Yeah.
Right? Then you went to therapy and I went to therapy and we talked. We started to get healed. And then we didn't really know how to interact with each other.
Different people.
And so like, how do you stay together after that? Mm-hmm. But I still think that like I attract my trauma, right? The people that I find in relationship, I attract my trauma. What am I supposed to do with that? Right? Like, how do I navigate those spaces when I find myself like attracted really to myself?
I think that for me, and this is probably going to sound conceited, but like I love it because I speak that language. So I don't have to do a whole lot of guessing. I mean, of course, everybody's situation is different and unique to them, but a lot of the overarching themes are similar.
Right.
So for me, I'm like, oh, I'm about to shine. Like, we out here. I understand what this means. I get this. I attract a lot of people who are like working with kids. The ones who are the most difficult don't give me any issues. Nobody else in the building wants to deal with them.
Right.
Or, you know, even some of our church members. Like, there's a lot of similarity with me and the women that we serve.
So, well, how do you make those relationships work, right? Because, like, if you're attracted to your trauma, usually what also ends up happening is that, like, that trauma shows up in not the so nice way, right? It causes friction. So how do you decide really, like, what's yours, what's theirs? How do you do the barriers, right? How do you make the relationship still work, even in relationships where, like, you know what I'm saying, like, y'all friends, right? Or
it really is. For me, it has been unique to the person and depending on the situation. So there were some instances where I had friendships where I saw a lot of myself in them, but like the unhealed, still working it out version. And when I first started to recognize it some years ago, I put huge distance in between us because it made me really uncomfortable. In that moment, I didn't necessarily realize that I was looking at myself. I just knew that I didn't like what I was seeing. And then over time, as I'm spending more time in therapy, I'm realizing that I want to distance myself from it because it's a reflection of something that I'm trying to get away from within myself. Whew. So, like, I don't want to be reminded of it, so I don't want to be around you.
So you was taking it out on those people because you didn't want to deal with you.
That part. And so then you get even more healing. And with healing usually comes maturity. And so now, because I speak that language, somebody has to be able to translate for them. Because now I can speak, I mean, for lack of a better phrase, broken and healed. Because I understand what that means. I understand where that came from. I understand why you're saying this thing this way, or the struggle that you're having with even trusting me or opening up to me. Like, you'll tell me half of the story. Or you'll say something and, like, we both know what you mean, but for some reason you're leaving out details or and so for that I understand what that means. I want to trust you, and I'm just going to give you a little bit to see what you do with it. And then if I like the way that you respond, I'll tell you more. Walls.
Wow.
And so brick by brick, I'll start removing them so you can see more of me. But be clear. If you say something wrong, then brick's going right back up. Like,
that's a fact.
This is a working project.
Yeah. I learned how to build houses because of that, I'm sure.
Listen. And so for me, I've just, with healing and being a first lady, you have to learn patience. You cannot interact with people and hope that they figure it out in the time frame that you think it should happen. Because if I'm being honest with myself, it took me years to figure this out. And just because I haven't figured it out now, it's unfair to try to speed up somebody else's timeline.
So what you're saying is, like, you recognizing the trauma in you gives you empathy.
Yes.
Allows for some grace to be present. And I think that that's important if we're talking like relationships, right? I think at the bottom of this, right? Like, and it's really like honesty and truth.
Yes.
Right?
That was when you asked me, like, how do you deal with it? I would say honesty and vulnerability, because oftentimes I am attracted to, or women who are attracted to me are very, very strong, very independent, handle business, make it do what it do, but at the same time need some place to fall apart and don't feel like they have that option because they're always responsible for putting everything else together. So I'm so busy putting all of this together. Where's my space to fall apart? Which is why I'm not telling you everything, because I don't know if I can trust you.
Right. And usually what, you know what I'm saying, when you're talking about like women who are go-getters, nobody starts out that way, right? And so like, it's because they recognize that like,
Ain't nobody coming.
I can't trust it. You know what I'm saying?
I got to do it myself.
And that's women and men, by the way, right? That like, I got to do it on my own. And so like, what comes with the being willing to work into the wee hours in the morning and get up and do it all over again, there's some trauma there, right? Where you don't value rest. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so like, you know, that's podcast for the other day about
because you crept that in there, right?
Because rest is holy, baby.
Listen,
right? It is holy. If God needed to rest, so do you.
That part.
That's a whole other thing. But I appreciate you breaking that down, because like, I think that I find myself in those situations pretty regularly, where the people who I'm attracted to are attracted to me, and the ones that I bump heads with the most, right, are people who reflect the trauma that I'm trying to get away from. And I think you articulated that beautifully. I appreciate it.
I think so. In those moments, I used to be frustrated because I'm like, why is this same person? Every time I turn around, like, here's a new person who got the same issues. But now I look at it as an opportunity to be thankful and empathetic. Because if I had not surrendered to the process of healing and knowing myself and doing the work, then God wouldn't trust me with those people. Because they have to be able to see what's possible on the other side. And not that I have it all together, but I fought like hell to heal from situations unapologetically. So when you're around me, we're not staying here.
Yeah. That's good. I said, man, all right. You done pulled it out your bag. Which bag we come out of? That was
all the Lord.
Listen, I ain't gonna even be a hater right now. Like, I'm gonna let that live. So this was So I Said, and Sharmayne just did. And we out.